Have you ever looked at your child and thought, why are you doing this on purpose? Or you should know better than this? Most parents think this at some point. What are some of the parenting ideas we inherited, despite being well intentioned, are simply outdated? Most parents today are parenting with ideas that no longer fit anymore. Our parents had good intentions, and so do we. The difference is that today, we have better information about how our children's brain develop, how their emotions work, and how behavior actually changes. So, updating the way we parent isn't a rejection of the past, it's an evolution. When we let go of outdated assumptions and respond to our kids with understanding, guidance, and connection, parenting can become calmer, more effective, and less exhausting. So, today I want to talk to you about top 3 assumptions that we have about our children. These come from love, but they don't work anymore. And I want to talk about what happens when we update those ideas. Because when parenting is aligned with how children actually develop today, it becomes calmer, more effective, and far less exhausting. Assumption number 1: children misbehave on purpose. This is one of the most common beliefs parents carry, and it makes sense. In the middle of a rushed morning or after a long day, when your child refuses, argues, or meltdowns, the thought that comes fast is, he's doing this to annoy me, or she knows exactly what she's doing. He's testing me. And the moment you believe that, your body reacts. You become tense, your voice sharpens, and your patience disappears. Because if it's intentional, it feels personal, it feels disrespectful, and it feels like a challenge to your authority. But here's the truth: most kids' behavior is not intentional misbehavior. It's a signal of a missing or overwhelmed skill. Our kids are not born with emotional regulation, impulse control, or problem solving abilities. These are the skills that develop slowly over time. And even when children have them, they lose access under stress, just like we do as adults. When a child has a tantrum, it's not manipulation, it's emotional overload. When your child looks defiant, they're often struggling with frustration, disappointment, or transitions. Think about this. When we as adults lose our temper, we call it stress. When adults snap, we say they are overwhelmed. But when our kids do the same thing, we label it as bad behavior. We all have same nervous systems, same stress response, and different expectations. Children simply don't have the internal brakes yet, and expecting them to use these skills they don't have fully developed sets everybody for conflict and failure. When we see behavior as intentional, we respond with punishment and control. We get louder, we threaten, we try to win. And while that might stop the behavior in the moment, it doesn't teach your child the skill. But when we shift from my child is doing this to me to my child is struggling right now, everything changes. We move from control to connection. And connection is what actually helps our kids do better. Because kids learn regulation through us before they can do it on their own. When they feel safe and supported, their brain comes back online. And that's when learning happens. That's when the behavior changes. So, next time your child pushes your buttons, pause and ask yourself one question: what is my child struggling with right now? What's making this hard for my child in this moment? And that single shift can change how parenting feels and how effective it is. Assumption number 2: smart kids should know better. This traps a lot of parents. When a child is intelligent, does well in school, and understands complex ideas, parents naturally expect maturity to match. So when that same child melts down, lies, hits a sibling, or refuses to listen, it feels confusing and frustrating. The thought that comes quickly is, if you're smart enough to understand, you should behave better. But intelligence and emotional maturity are not the same thing. A child can be academically advanced, but still struggle with self control, frustration, or handling big emotions. They may solve math problems easily, but they may fall apart when don't go their way. This happens because self control lives in the part of the brain responsible for impulse control, emotional regulation, and decision making. That part of the brain develops slowly and continuing well into the mid 20s. Knowing a rule is not the same as being able to follow it under stress. A child may understand that hitting is wrong or that lying has consequences, but when they are overwhelmed, they are tired, they are emotionally flooded, that knowledge is not available for access. This belief can cause real harm. When your child repeatedly hears that they should know better, that message doesn't build skills. It actually shuts them down. It makes your child hide mistakes, avoid honesty, and feel bad about themselves rather than motivated to grow. What actually helps is coaching and support that matches where your child's brain truly is, not where we expect it to be. When we replace "you should know better" with "you're still learning," we give our children the safety they need to develop the skills they are missing. And children grow best when they feel understood, not pressured. Assumption number 3: consequences teach kids to behave better. Most of us were raised to believe that consequences are the main way that kids would learn. If a child does something wrong, you give them a consequence and they learn their lesson. The thinking is simple: if it hurts enough, they won't do it again. And to be fair, this approach often appears to work. At least in the short term, the behavior may stop. The child may comply, but stopping the behavior is not the same thing as teaching a child how to do better next time. What research and decades of real life parenting show us is that consequences can stop the behavior, but you need skills for changing the behavior long term. Punishment does not teach emotional regulation. It does not teach problem solving. It doesn't teach empathy or self control. It teaches you avoidance. A child learns how not to get caught, how to hide mistakes, and how to comply out of fear than understanding. In fact, when consequences are harsh or they are used repeatedly, they often backfire. Your child may become more anxious, more defiant, or secretive. A punished child might stop the behavior, but not because they understand why it was wrong. They stop because they're afraid of the outcome. And fear does not build internal discipline, it builds external control. The moment the authority figure is gone, the lesson disappears. Real learning happens when consequences are paired with teaching. That means helping child understand what went wrong once they become calm, not in the heat of the moment. It means naming the behavior, not the child. It means practicing the skill that was missing, whether that skill was waiting, handling frustration, using words instead of hands, or making a repair after. Without this step, children are left to figure things out on their own, often repeating the same behavior over and over again. When parents shift from asking, how do I stop this behavior right now, to what does my child need to learn so this happens less over time, discipline becomes calmer, more effective, and less exhausting. And kids just don't behave better, they actually get better at handling life. When we understand children better, we respond differently. And that's where the real change begins. If this resonates with you, please subscribe and share with other parents.